Or girls come up to me and go, you know, you were the first, you know, girl that I saw on TV that looked like me. You know, and it just blows my mind. And I thought Saban was really smart in making sure that there was, you know, an African American girl or boy, or you know, a Latino girl or boy, because there, you know, you didn't see those superheroes, you know. But it was smart to give 6 different individuals, and like honestly, you would relate it to somebody, you know. And so we hear these stories, and I mean, they go, "Oh, I'm so sorry if I'm geeking out," and I'm like, I mean, if I got to meet somebody that I looked up to as a kid, I would geek out too. So, but it's like you literally hear these stories where people were bullied, and Power Rangers spoke to them in some sort of way and empowered them to overcome something so horrific. You know, that blows my mind.
I was invited to be a special guest at Tekashokan, which is a small anime convention in Pittsburgh, and that was the first time that I was told stories about how, because somebody had come from a broken home or their father was missing, that Zordon was a real father figure to them, and taught them things, you know, and told them that they were okay, that, you know, that it was okay that they were going to be this way, and it was very powerful and very humbling to know that the character and the voice gave them something, you know, to look up to, and so I feel very proud of the fact that character and the show itself really instilled some good values in people.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent.
You know, you asked for one story, and man, the immensity. Power Rangers, I mean, there's 100 cast members now, and I think Power Rangers as a whole, each of us in our own series represented who somebody somewhere in the world wanted to be, and provided the guideline or the outline for how to move in that direction. And these are the stories that each of us hear in various forms everywhere that I go. One story that blew me away. I was at a convention, and I won't say where, but this guy comes up to me, very unassuming, very humble, and he says, and he was very sincere, and I knew this was important to him immediately by reading his body language, the way that he approached me. I could tell this was a very serious moment for him. And he came to me and he says, I want you to know, after a few moments of trying to figure out what he was going to say, he says, I want you to know that you were the guideline for happiness in my family. And I just thought, wow, okay, well, thank you very much. He says, no, you don't understand. He says, I watched the show every day with my family, and it was where we would sit together on the couch, and we would spend 1 solid hour watching the show, sometimes back to back, sometimes, you know, reruns, all of this. He says, and that's where we got our happiness. I was like, well, I'm so glad I could do that. And my castmates, I know we're happy that we could do that. He says, you don't understand. So I stopped. He says, after my parents were killed in a car accident, he says, you and your show, he says, and I wasn't into the new show because he grew up on the older show. He says, I would come back and sit on the couch, and I would watch that show, and I could feel both of my parents still sitting next to me like they would when we watched the show. And I mean, it still gives me goosebumps to this day. So to see that sort of impact and that sort of family gathering and that sort of happiness that each of the cast members of the show can bring to that sort of power, and not power like muscles, but that sort of power to bring a family together is something that blew me away, and it still does to this day. So that was a moment for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that, yes. And I think all of us have that feeling, whether it's, like I said, whether it's family or whether your brother or sister watching the show after school. You know, I think that's the kind of feeling that this show, and that's why it's so important. I think that's why it's so important that these shows are there and available, and they're always, and they're going to be there. And I do appreciate that. And I just want to very briefly talk about it because I think it's very important as well. For those of you that have not seen, obviously, some of the, actually all of you guys have a picture with the no hate symbol on it. Karen, tell us a little bit about that. That's very important because it's, it's almost like Power Rangers. It's made for Power Rangers right there for what it stands for.
No, I agree. No Hate was a campaign that they started in LA because there was a Proposition 8. And it originally, I think, started because Proposition 8 was against gay marriage. And what people identify with the No Hate campaign is, though, is a lot of the youth that come, who are a part of the LGBT community are bullied, go through horrific things in their life for being who they are. And so No Hate, the campaign turned into this anti-bullying campaign. It turns into, all these other bigger things. And so they called us and honestly were like, we'd love to do a shoot with the Power Rangers. And I was like, oh really? Oh my gosh, I would love to. And David and I, at the time, literally called as many as the people we knew. And I was so shocked because we showed up to the shoot. We did like a group shoot together and we did individual shoots. But I was so shocked because then there were 20 other people there that I didn't even know, that I had no way of getting in touch with them. So many people came out in support of, just this anti-bully, campaign, and it's simply, with the tape over your mouth and the no hate on your cheek. And it was so funny because I brought my helmet, just thinking, oh, it would probably be cool, bring the helmet. And they, Adam Busco was a huge fan of Power Rangers, and he flipped out. And they did a whole shoot of just my Power Ranger helmet with the tape, and I mean literally he blasted it on Facebook, and it got like 1 million shares and likes, and people went ballistic. And then a couple months later, they did this big poster of all of us, and since then, you've done it. I mean, so many people who've come on the scene have done it. David has done it. So it's just really cool, It's just one of those really cool ways of showing our support.
Definitely. And again, like I said, continuing the tradition of what the Rangers stand for and what they believe in. Definitely. I want to open it up to the audience. Folks, I know you guys are anxious. So does anybody have any questions for our panelists? For anyone? Okay, one over here. Excellent. I want to do a little bit of exercise here.
Double time.
This one's for Austin. I was actually curious on the episode where the White Ranger came in. You said that was great because they're like, oh, this is your new leader. What did they actually say? Because I know that they changed that around.
Wow, I did 100 episodes. I'm trying to remember that specific episode.
It was right before you guys were going to leave.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, I don't think I was there at that point. Yeah, there was, when I left the show, I had been, wide open. I was very vociferous about the fact that I didn't agree with how things were going on the show. They knew I was going to be leaving the show. And at that point, Tommy's character was very popular. And so they started writing him up to build his character because they knew at some point they weren't going to pay us what we needed to be paid. My paycheck every 2 weeks leaving the show in the first season was $611.
And you're shooting like 2 or 3 episodes?
2 to 3 episodes a week. 6 days a week, 12 to 14, 15-hour days. So I had a problem with that. I mean, which one of you guys would do that on the world's biggest television series ever?
And how much money, like $1 billion maybe?
Yeah, and the owner of the show made $1 billion the first year. So I saw the difference, and I wasn't asking them to make me a millionaire. I was asking them to just pay me. Just pay me. If I'd worked for free, I would have made more money. So when it came to, and I'm not a money guy. I've been driving, in fact today I drive the same Jeep and Harley Davidson I drove back then, because I love it. Just keep rebuilding it. But the point is, I had issue with it. They saw me leaving the show. They built up Tommy's character. By the time I finally left the show, they had built his character up to a point to where he was an easy move into a leadership role. And his character did a great job with it. So that's really what happened. I don't think I was even there when that line was ever spoken. In fact, I know I wasn't. I would remember that.
Yeah. They took a lot of stock footage. Like, honestly, people thought we knew each other, and we met, what, 7 months ago when we did a con together in Houston. That was the first time we ever met each other. And it was like, we got on the set, and literally there were people who looked like them, all three of them, and they were, you know, there as stunt doubles, and they used a lot of stock footage. So you'll notice that they had on an outfit they probably had on another episode, and they would just say very minimal lines, and then you'd see the back of their head a lot, and you know, and yeah, because I know for a fact they weren't even there. So when we got on the show, they kind of explained, you know, Tommy was the new leader, and Steve Cardenas, who came on the show, you know, he was told, you're not going to be the leader, you're, you know, now Tommy is, and we were like, okay, we were, you know, happy to be there. We just wanted to, you know, fit into whatever they needed us to do. But he's right. These guys, I don't know if I've ever told them, but because of what they did, and because of them taking a stand, when we came on to the show, we weren't paid millions, but our checks every 2 weeks were more. They probably doubled it up. And even in the grand scheme of things, it was still, like, it wasn't even like what they call the SAG. Like, SAG is the union that kind of watches over actors, and you work at SAG and you get your union card. But the most beneficial part of it is you get, you know, insurance. And you get those kind of things. You get, you know, 401ks and stuff like that. Well, we didn't even have insurance because it was a non-union show. So because of their sacrifice, Saban said, we'll pay you a little bit more, and on top of that, it still wasn't like we got the minimum that SAG would get actors. Like, we still, like, insurance, I remember I had got a rash because the makeup that the makeup artist was using on my face I was allergic to. And I remember going back and forth, and finally, you know, the producers were like, okay, we'll pick up the bill for you. But it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go to this dermatologist, and the prescription was hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And so they finally took care of the bill for me, but only like took care of it, and then from there we're like, well, now you're on your own once this cream runs out. It was like, oh my God. But that was the reality that we lived. But the fact that they, you know, kind of stood their ground, we made a little bit more, and hopefully, you know, I left the show eventually because of the same reason. But who knows? It was just crazy.
Any other questions? We got one over there. All right. Here we go.
Come back to this while he's exercising. I was the leader every day I was ever on the show that I remember. It happened after I left.
Hi, this is more of a comment. My brothers and I grew up watching Power Rangers, and my dad, he was actually in the military, and he was a ranger. So there was one time he walked in on us, and we're like, oh, look, Dad, Power Rangers. And my dad's like, I'm a real ranger. Those are just Power Rangers. I'm like, Dad, no. We saw you guys as superheroes, and my dad's like, but I'm the real one. Yeah. So a couple of years later, after, I want to say I was 25 years old, I actually joined the military. And you guys were the ones that, you guys were the ones that exposed me to the good guy versus the bad guy. So after I took my oath, my dad came up to me and said, now you're a Power Ranger. Like, he remembered. So I just wanted to comment.
Thank you very
I
much.
swear, every time that happens, I'm like, oh, and I look at you and you've got water in your eyes. We're both like, oh. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No, your dad said they're the real heroes, you know. I just feel honored to have had an opportunity to be something positive in your childhood and in this lifetime, you know. There's a lot of bad things out there, so to be something positive is such an honor.
Exactly. Any other questions, guys? We got two to market.
How you doing? My question is for Austin. Which Ranger did you enjoy playing the most, the Red Ranger or the Gold Ranger?
I get that question quite a bit. To our young lady over there who's joined the Army. I spent 4 years over there in the Middle East working with our nation's truest heroes. So I was glad to be able to serve you guys in the Middle East. Which Ranger I enjoyed. The Red Ranger was kind of like Mom's apple pie. You know, he was the center of the solar system for the beginning of the show. Jason Lee Scott, the red guy, where his suit was unassuming. He didn't have any of the flashy gear. He didn't have any super cool toys. I mean, he did have a Tyrannosaurus. I mean, he did have a Tyrannosaurus. But he was a very unassuming character. He was a walk quietly, carry a big stick. And that resonates with me today, even still as a Catholic and as a man. So I love the Red Ranger because he was very quiet, very simple. He moved his power when he needed to in the directions that he thought would serve the team best. So he was kind of the essence of a team player. The Gold Ranger, when I came back, was very similar, but he had all the flashy gear. He had all the he had all the bling. You know, it was like his suit got bedazzled. I just learned that word. I get to use the word bedazzled. So, you know, he had all the flashy gear and the super cool, you know, mantle thing and stuff. And he was the outsider. He wasn't the leader of the group. He got to come back as that 6th Ranger entity. And I loved them both for totally different reasons. He was flashy and had all the cool stuff, but I still loved the Red Ranger. So I think if I had to choose one, it would probably be the Red Ranger. He was, that's home for me.
Yes, my question's for Karen. I just wanted to ask, towards the end of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series, they turned the Rangers into little kids, and so to bring in the Alien Rangers, which I thought was kind of, you know, dull, but I digress. So,
A little shady.
what was going on behind the scenes? I'm just curious. When they turned all the actors into kids, what were like you guys doing? Like you and
We actually got a little bit of a break. That was one of the times we got, we had like a week off. I actually went and auditioned and got a part on Hanging with Mr. Cooper and was able to do that episode. I kind of snuck it in there, and I remember coming back and they were like, "What? How'd you do it?" And I was like, "It just all turned out perfectly. I don't know how I did it." So I actually went off and worked on another show, but I was also in the midst of all that. That's when my talks were starting, as far as, you know, my you know, I knew that there was another movie that was going to happen, and they were paying us, they offered us less than what we had gotten on the first movie, which I was kind of like, wait, the first movie was a hit, how are we getting less money? And they were just, you know, like, there were just things, like every time we turned around, it was like they would pull the rug out from under us. And I just remember hearing producers say, you know, they would get upset with like 20th Century Fox, like, you can't send them cars and you can't send them limos to get to the set. And we were like, but we don't know where we're going, you know, or we don't know what we're doing, so that's why they would send you a car, so that you'd be there on time, and you would, you know, they would just want to ensure that you were taken care of. And they were like, we don't want you guys to treat them that way, because then they're going to want more money from us. So it was just a bunch of craziness happening, and I just basically had said I would like, you know, my contract to be different. So we tried to talk about it, we tried to figure it out, and from what I understood, we had figured it out, and I was going to do 10 more episodes, and they were going to gracefully write my character out. Next thing I know, I was a little kid, and I never came back. I was going to Africa. So it was what it was, but I was so happy that I had done what I'd done, and I met, you know, the people that I'd met, the family, and just being a part of the legacy of Power Rangers. I was happy to have done it. And I felt when I got that role on Hanging with Mr. Cooper that, you know, all is not lost. I can audition for other things. Like, I'm an actress, and thank you, Power Rangers, for opening that door officially for me. So there it was.
Excellent. I want to let you guys know about a couple of things, and Austin, this first it's about you. In 2004, ABC Family ran a contest, and they named Austin the greatest Red Ranger of all time. Yeah.